Okay. How many students are we expecting?
Um, Really, it kind of is hit or miss. We've had anywhere from, 15 to, 50. So, and they typically trickle on a little slow.
Yeah, I understand. You know what? Our kids are zoomed out, and so but we're gonna get through this, y'all. Hopefully,
We
this time next year, this be beyond us.
I hope. I'm hoping we're going to take some of the great things from that we've learned about how to connect in this
Bonding.
way. Um, but other than that, I'm ready to be back in person full time for sure. Uh,
Absolutely.
so
Absolutely.
yeah, so thank you guys that are already on. We are live now, so we are super excited to have you here with us tonight, and we have some amazing opportunities and some information to share with you this evening. So we will get started here in about just a minute. I am going to turn the stage over in just a second, and we have a couple of pieces of this presentation. So you'll get to have kind of like a panel discussion, as well as some specific information about the university. So I will pause for just 1 second, and then we will get started. All right. Thank you guys for joining us this evening. We are so excited to have you here with us this evening at this live college event that we have every year. It is one of the first time we've ever done this in this platform. We typically are a in-person event, but this year we're doing it virtually, like many other things that have had to happen virtually this year. So we are excited to be able to have Mr. Magwood and Ms. Houston here with us this evening to talk about historically Black colleges and universities. So they have a lot of great information specific about some of their experiences, as well as the universities they're representing this evening, and then just some general information about the historically Black colleges and universities. So I'm going to turn the stage over to them at this time, and we'll be able to ask questions, or you guys can ask questions. I'll add a link in the chat that you can ask them if you would prefer to ask them privately, and we'll answer, or we'll ask those for you here at this live event. Or if you want to put them in the chat, we will take those as well that way and answer those as we go through the presentation. So please feel free to participate this evening in either way that you feel the most comfortable with. So thank you for joining us, and we'll get started.
Well, greetings, everyone. My name is Andrea Houston, and I am with Education First Foundation, the showcase of HBCU. And so that is an annual college fair that we have here in Louisville every year. And we did not get to have it 2020 because of COVID. And then we're probably going to bring it back this fall, but it's going to be virtual. And so the purpose for me tonight and my colleague is to talk to you about the HBCU experience. So what is a HBCU? It is a historically Black college and university. Well, what does that mean? It means that there was once a time in America's history where African descendants of Africa were not necessarily allowed to go to what we call a PWI, which is a predominantly white institution, which are your branded schools such as the University of Louisville, Indiana, Center College, schools like that. So what happened was in about 1837, there was a gentleman that bequeathed about 10% of his estate to create a school for the descendants of Africans here in America in Philadelphia, and it's now called Cheney University. So out of that, what happened is that HBCUs were birthed all across, well, primarily up and down the East Coast and around to the Southwest. So you have HBCUs that are as far as north as Philadelphia, and out west we would go into I think Lincoln is in Oklahoma, I believe. And then there are some in St. Louis, but the majority of them are up and down your East Coast. So from Maryland Eastern Shore, all the way down to Virginia, and you would get to the Hamptons, and you have Howard over in DC, which is, you know, that DMV area you all know. And then you would go on down to North Carolina, where you have North Carolina A&T, and you get into, and North Carolina actually has about 7 or 8 HBCUs, but you have North Carolina Central there, you have Johnson C. Smith, and then you would go on, and there are others, but then you would just go on into South Carolina, where you would find other schools like Bennett College, and then South Carolina State and Morris. And then you would go on down, you know, just keep going on down and around through your history. Alabama, you have Alabama A&M, and you have Tuskegee, and you also have them in Louisiana, where you have Xavier University, who produces the greatest number of African-American doctors. Then you have Dillard University also there, and my colleague tonight is an alum of Dillard University. And then, you know, you can go on to Texas, where you have, you know, Texas Southern, which is another TSU, because I forgot about Tennessee. How could I forget about Tennessee, with Tennessee State right here? And so there are so many other opportunities out there with HBCUs. So let's talk about some of the questions of why we're here. We're here to let you know that HBCUs are vital institutions. They are game changers, right? It is, I guess I would say, and you can chime in, James, if you like. This is a great time to be talking about HBCUs, but as alum, it's always been great to be a part of the HBCU family, because we are on the backs of alumni who have paved the way. So in your history lessons, you have learned about the Du Bois and the Booker T. Washington debate. That would be Fisk versus Hampton, you know, and then you learned about, you know, you just go on down the pike to many others who have made history in America, from Thurgood Marshall to also to, there are just so many history makers. And of course, we know Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. is a graduate of Morehouse, and James is a representative of Morehouse College. And then we, you know, so there are so many down the pike. And then as you're in your studies now, you should learn about Toni Morrison. There are so many. And then of course, you know, the Vice President of the United States of America is Kamala Harris, which is an alum of Howard University. So HBCUs actually teach you to be the game, right? They're game changers. That's what they teach you, because a lot of times you'll hear that historically Black colleges don't prepare you for the real world. Well, tell you what, 2020 and 2021, really in 2019, have shown the world that HBCUs and their nurturing abilities have prepared their students to take over and do it on a global level. So if I hear, or I cringe when I hear parents say, well, they don't teach you to be the real world because, you know, it's a Black college and it's on this kind of campus. Well, that's not true. You'll find out, just as African Americans are not monolithic, that means all think like one. Neither are our HBCUs. They're varied. And Mr. Magwood will go into that tonight. He'll talk to you about Morehouse, but he'll let you know, because Morehouse is a male college, and I'm sure we have young ladies out here, that he'll talk to you about the qualifications and the standards across the board at the various HBCUs. So with that, I say that it's exciting time to be a part of the HBCU family. We very much so support one another. And I'm just going to stop right there and turn it over to Mr. Magwood so he can get, and we're just going to pivot back and forth and try to get in some of your chat questions. So make sure, because you have us here, and I know we can't be live in a person, but take the opportunity to send in your chat wherever it has to go and ask us some questions, and we'll get back to you with them. And then I'll go into a little more to my HBCU experience. Or would you like for me to do that now, Ms. Benson? I can do that as well if you like. You want to go, James? Okay.
Okay, sure. Good evening again. I'm just so glad to be here. I'm James Magwood, Senior Social Director of Admissions and Recruitment at Morehouse College. Just spend a little time talking about Morehouse, the HBCUs that experiences that Ms. Houston has already. You'll see how the one thing about the HBCU experience is that we are all very much connected. We all look out for one another, and if someone doesn't know one school, we can pick up the phone and make a call. And I tell people all the time, I can get you into Morehouse, I can get you in any school, as long as, of course, you're doing the work. And just say, and I'll talk a little bit. Houston talked about some of the opportunities that people, some of the myths that you're not going to be well prepared, but just in terms of what Morehouse men are doing in the HBC world, we'll talk a little bit about that as well. So I'm going to share my screen here. Wait a minute. Okay. Share. All right. Can you see it there? You all there? All right. So Morehouse College, and I always just kind of like to say this kind of just from the beginning. We know about HBCUs at one time in the 1930s, 1920s. There were about 120, 130 HBCUs. There were about 101. But out of all those HBCUs that have existed and that are in existence today, there is only one type of house. Morehouse is the only type institution of its in the city of Atlanta, the state of Georgia, the country, United States of America, and the world on the planet. For we do one thing, and since 1867, 2 years after the Civil War ended, we've been doing one thing, and that's educating young American men, and not so much young African American men. And one of the misconceptions that people always say, and it's so funny, do I have to be Black to attend HBCU, to attend Morehouse? No, you do not. Morehouse has students that are from 26 different countries, 42 different states, from Bulgaria, Nepal, South America, all over. It's just a great melting pot. So when I say that there's no other place that exists on the planet like Morehouse, there's no other place. For 154 years, we've been educating African American males to be the best that they can be. Now, just let me say this as well. Because is an all-male institution, we are definitely not an all-male environment. As you know, you've been hearing about HBCUs. There are two other schools that border our campus. Literally right behind us is Atlanta University, which is a co-educational male and female institution, HBCU. And then we have Spelman College, which is the all-female institution, HBCU. So what does that mean? There are opportunities for cross-registration for courses, things like homecoming. Homecoming is actually called not more Spelman Homecoming, it's called Spell House, the homecoming that happens every year. So there's some great collaboration between all the three schools. And it's the only place that also it's center, the Atlanta University Center, because it houses Morehouse, the all-male institution, Spelman, the female institution, and Clark Atlanta University. So who are we? Of course, again, we are the only all-male institution that exists, founded in 1867. One of the things about Morehouse, we're a small classroom size learning. Average classroom size is about 14:1, which is pretty much the norm. With a lot of the HBCUs, we do not have the 300 or 400 lecture hall series. The total population is about 2,200 students. Now, let me say, some of the largest schools, when you get into Texas Southern, maybe Grambling, but even the 300 or 400 lecture hall series is pretty rare, okay? 96% of our faculty have a terminal degree. What's a terminal degree? A terminal degree is the highest academic degree that you can earn. So that means they either have a PhD, a Doctor of Philosophy, they have an EDD, Doctor of Education, they may have an MD if they're in biology. They are a medical doctor. We have faculty who teach in the business, political science, and history, who have a JD. A JD is what? A Juris Doctorate degree. Okay, so we don't use teacher assistants or graduate school students that teach our courses. So very hands-on, interactive that we have engagement. So we send more African American men to medical school, Harvard, Yale, Business Law School, Divinity School. Morehouse has a unique distinction as having six Rhodes Scholars. What's a Rhodes Scholar, you may ask? A Rhodes Scholar is a very prestigious educational opportunity where students have an opportunity to study in Oxford, England. This is a distinction that's been held by several US presidents, world leaders, business persons, and it's full funding. It comes from funding that was left like in the late 1700s. So these students, they study, and we produce 6 Rhodes Scholars. Again, at Morehouse, we don't just expect you to meet the expectations, we want you to exceed them. You're going to have a wide world range of brotherhoods all across the country, all over the world. You're going to meet mentors who are going to challenge you and expect the best of you. I tell people all the time in my professional career, I've been at Morehouse for about 4 years, but I've been in the business of higher education for about the last 20 years. So I have one son, but about 20 sons, non-biological sons, 300 nephews, and even when I was a co-education institution, nieces and nephews and things like that. So it's a lifelong experience that we have. So you're going to continue to become a change agents for the world. So particularly in today's time and changes, things that are going on with Black Lives Matter, civil justices and everything, we know that Morehouse students and Morehouse men are game changers. They're on the active front lines now. You know, many of you, your essays, your expectations are expected to, you know, we asked you to talk about things that, how you want to make a difference in the world. And because we have several clubs, organizations that exist, there are things that students are actively involved in from day one. And some of the applications that I read from the initial admissions are doing some things in terms of leadership that I'm just like, wow. These young men have resumes, vitaes that are out of the world. So when we talk about alum and everything from HBCUs, particularly Morehouse, I know Samuel L. Jackson. He's done several films. Many of you, Capital One Man, several films he's done in the past. He's a Morehouse alum. Actor Spike Lee. Many of you may know his and everything like that that have existed. So, and actually Spike actually comes to campus every so often and actually teaches a class. We have a program that's CTIMS, one of our majors, which is Cinema, Television, and Emerging Media Study programs. So it's just a dynamic program. So if you're interested in the film industry, that's a dynamic program. Spike, now I'm not saying he comes and teaches every semester, but every 3-4 years he comes to teach. Talk about also being here in Atlanta and why, particularly why that major is so popular. You know, the film actor, producer, Tyler Perry, well, his studio is about 15 minutes of campus. So a lot of our students have served as set and extras and things like that. So if they're interested in that. There's also another movie studio, Pinewood Studios, which is about 30 minutes away. So I don't know if many of you have heard of this film. A famous movie was filmed here a couple of years ago, Panther. So that's from out of Atlanta. Another Morehouse alum, Maynard Jackson. Maynard Jackson actually was the first African-American mayor of the city of Atlanta. And the airport, Jackson Hartsfield Airport, was named after him. He brought a lot of economic development to the city of Atlanta in the 1970s and 80s. So, and still has done a great, he set a great trend for economic growth, revitalization for the city of Atlanta. And of course, one of our most famous grads, Dr. Martin Luther King, class of 1948. Now, many of you may know Dr. King as to be a minister, a civil rights activist, of course, which he was, all those great things. But when Dr. King came to Morehouse, he was a sociology major and not the best student. And this is public information, it's in the records and things like that. He graduated with a 2.7. Now, of course, we want you to exceed the 2.7. Point of the matter is that, you know, at Morehouse, see, we get you, shape you, we continue to polish you up, and look at all the great things that Dr. King accomplished in his lifetime and still have a lasting impression in today's. So these are just some of the other notable alum that we have. Dr. David Satcher, the former U.S. World Surgeon General, music producer P.J. Morton, John David Washington. His father is actually, many of you may know of his dad, Washington, but John David is a Morehouse alum. So just great men, from politicians to business athletes, who are doing and done some great things. So currently at Morehouse, we have about 31 different active majors and programs. So this is the real reason to come to school, to be successful and of course, and to study. The one good thing about first year, if you're undecided, which many of our students are, it's not know what you want to be, what you want to study. But because all the first year core courses are what we call have a interdisciplinary program of study, that means English, history, psychology, they transfer to all the various several different majors. Now, let me say that in terms of core courses, many of you may be enrolled in dual enrollment courses, college credit classes. That's perfectly fine. So that means that you'll be a little one step ahead of maybe the traditional first year student. Now, what does that mean? You still also will be considered a first year student, but with advanced standing. So that way you're still eligible for all the academic merit scholarships that you can apply for upon gaining admission to the college and being a part of the first year freshman class. So 31 different majors and programs that we have, from performing arts, to social and cultural studies, mathematics, computer science programs. We have a dual engineering degree program. What's a dual degree engineering program? It's actually a 3-2 program. So what that means is 3 years at Morehouse, you'll complete general physics courses, your science, your mathematics courses, and then 2 years you'll finish at several schools that you may see here on the list, from Auburn, Clark, Columbia, Dartmouth, another North Central A&T University. So it's a great program and a very high completion rate. One of the great things about the dual engineering program is that it also, funding also follows you. So students who may be a part of the MEP, which is the Minority Engineering Program, NSBE, National Society of Black Engineers, and also there's a very high job placement rate that students have in the dual engineering degree program. So in terms of the academic life, we know it's about a balance. We want you to enjoy yourself, to have some fun, some culture, some social going on as well. So we have over 70 different clubs that exist on campus. If you're interested in one of the fraternities, we have Greek life that exists on campus that are things that are going on for you. Marching band, glee club, jazz ensemble, SGA, which is Student Government Association, which many of you may know as Student Council, Student Senate in your high schools right now, several club, intramural sport programs and activities. And even in terms of sports, we're we're Division II school. So if you're looking for additional athletic scholarship opportunities, we have a student athletic prospect inquiry page that you can always complete. Coaches and recruiters will seek you out based on NCAA eligibility. So one of the great things about Morehouse is not just to get you there, but to make sure that you stay. So we talk. And so we have a retention rate of about 81, 82%. Students graduate, and by the time students graduate in May, a high number of those students already have job offers like in the February 1st of March. So this is April 15th. So I've talked to several of my students, my mentees, who already have job placements already. And some of the jobs, these young men are going to places like Goldman Sachs, Deloitte and Touche, Google, Verizon. There's a young man I know going to Nike out in Seattle, Washington. Several going to Emory Public School of Public Health for graduate school programs, Yale Divinity School, a big company. I'm originally from Ohio, so a little south of me. I'm originally from Dayton, Ohio. So south of me is Cincinnati, Procter & Gamble. And these are great positions. And the one thing, even as Ms. Houston said, that kind of to touch back, people say, well, HBCUs don't really doesn't prepare people for the real world, but that's the furthest thing. Because some of these Fortune 500 companies, they come looking for talented students who attend HBCUs because they know that they're getting the brightest and the best. They know that several of our faculty and professors are well experienced in their field of research and methods, and they have students actively engaged in that research. So from day one, you're learning how to write proposals, grant writing, you're putting programs together in terms of public speaking. We talk about just not educating, the mind, the core, the everything. So, of course, when we talk about some of the, kind of the nuts and of the pieces of the puzzle, currently our tuition, we're about $48,500 for the academic year. On average, average student who applies to Morehouse has about a 3.6, 10 on the SAT, from the ACT. Now, what that means, if you don't have the 3.6, the 1110 or the 24 doesn't mean you're not admissible, because we do a holistic review of all applications. We look at extracurricular. Many of you may be in acapels, Delta Teens, you may be Jack and Jill, you may serve in your church. And these are all things that you're going to your essays that we like to read. You may be a Boy Scout, you may have completed an Eagle Scout project. So these are some of the things that we look for and that complete you and make you that well-rounded person that we want you to continue when you get to Morehouse as well. And of course, after you graduate, you go to graduate school, professional school, in your professional and personal career. So currently, we are not doing live campus tours because of COVID. We do have a virtual campus link tour that is available on our website right now. Hopefully for the fall, we'll be back full steam. For the spring semester, we have about 300 first year students and about 200 upperclassmen, so about 500 students that are on campus right now. And this year we were optional, so ACT, SAT scores were that's optional. So that means we're looking really at not just the GPA, but the curriculum, so the type of courses that you've taken as well, okay? So dual enrollment in the AP courses, and of course, those are all pass classes as well, okay? So that's one way to apply. Common application, which many of you know that I won't even insult you. You are great scholars, academicians, so you know about the common application. Early bird gets the worm. Priority date, early decision, early action, November 1. Regular priority date is February 1. And you'll find that to be pretty common across the board, HBCUs and schools in general. Now, some schools, HBCUs are on the common. There's an HBCU Black application. We are not, Morehouse is not a part of that, okay? So just keep that in mind. So again, completed application, $50 non-refundable fee, official transcripts, and we will look at all those things and make some great decisions. Again, these are dates. We're now on a rolling admission basis, which means that every week new students are being admitted to the college. We are still admitting, so if we have any seniors, we still have some spots that are available, but applications have greatly increased over the past, this academic year, so we're excited about that. The magic number that we look to see at Morehouse is about 600 students, anywhere between 575 and 600 to make up the freshman class. We also have transfer students as well, so sometimes students may, well, maybe I'm just not quite ready to go away to Morehouse yet. Let me stay here at home and attend community college or the junior college for about a year or so. You apply as a transfer student, so those options are still available for you as well, okay? So academic-based scholarships, you apply for those external scholarships as well. Federal financial aid is to assist you with educational expenses, but want students to also look at those great websites such as UNCF, United Negro College Fund, Frederick Patterson, Thurgood Marshall Law Fund, Bill and Melinda Gates Scholarship, local churches, fraternities, and sororities, in addition to my admission experience. So I also have that financial aid background as well, where I've been a financial aid administrator. So there are a lot of money that's out there a lot of times, but keep in mind, the money's not going to come looking for you. You have to look for it, because for every scholarship application that you're completing, 10 times that many people are applying. You got to read the application, you've got to do a well-crafted essay, and that's something we look for. Just let me say this in terms of writing, and Ms. Williams, the English teacher who gave some great writing skills and tips like that. When you're applying to colleges, have a nice email. We don't want to see, hotboys at yahoo.com. We want everything's professional, because that's your calling card. That's who you are. You start the academic resume and everything right now. You could submit that also as part of your admissions material to Morehouse. Currently, again, we're not doing the campus tour, are virtual, and we just want you to take a look, visit our website. This is contact information. If anyone has any questions, you can always call me, email me, write to me, anything I can do to assist you in your process at Morehouse. You might say, well, Mr. Magwood, I'm interested in going to XYZ, what this means. We all have, I can't tell you about the specific programs, but we can always talk about comparing apples to oranges and everything like that. So again, I thank you for your time, and I'll turn it back over to Ms. Houston.
Okay, so that's a lot of good information, especially about Morehouse. And like Mr. Magwood said, that Morehouse is right there in the AU Center, and that includes Spelman College, which Keisha Knight Pulliam, you would probably know about her. She played Rudy. She graduated from Spelman. And also Stacey Abrams, right? That's a hot name right now, especially with Georgia, because I really did accidentally leave Georgia out, but I left some other states out too, but I knew he would hit on Georgia. And then also, there's Clark Atlanta University, so which has great history in the foundation of the African American community as far as our policies and politics, the Atlanta papers. So there is a lot of history there, right there, just in Atlanta. And then locally, we have HBCU alumni, right, that you all may know. I want to say Mr. Page O'Brien sits on the board here, sits on the board there in Georgia, but he's from here for Morris, who just got their accreditation back.
Morris Brown.
Morris Brown, right.
Morris Brown, yes.
Morris Brown, which is right there in Atlanta as well. So we would like for you to consider that as well. So one thing I wanted to cover, because I asked Ms. Benson what was the demographics of the students tonight. So I've learned that it's freshmen through 12th graders, right? So you heard Mr. Magwood talk about the rolling admissions. Most HBCUs have rolling admissions, right? So we know that May 1 is generally like decision day, when you get to, make your Facebook post and all that and show where you are going to go or where you're committed to go, but you still have time. So if you're a senior that has not made the decision, there is still time. But what I want to do is talk a little bit to my freshmen and my 10th graders. You're at manual, so there's an expectation that you already know that you're there to build your academic portfolio, right? And what is that academic portfolio? Well, that's everything that you're doing in your academics, from your grades to your extracurricular activities, what you're doing in your churches. He mentions some of the organizations locally. We have Black Achievers, which is really big in Louisville. You have the Lincoln Foundation, you have the Urban League programs, and then there are a host of churches that have programs locally that you need to tie and get yourself connected to. It is good to be a part of something, because a lot of times, like I said, remember, these universities are not monolithic. That means they don't all think alike, and they're not all looking for the same type of student. You have to show who you are, right? And you have to show your skill set. You have to sell yourself, right? So that happens now as you're in your freshman year and your 10th grade year. Start to build that academic portfolio. That means your seat work is the most important thing that you can do. So even in that, I would just say, make sure in the 10th grade that you're kind of involved. You really hopefully are involved in the 9th grade in Black Achievers or the Lincoln Foundation or some kind of accelerated program. Then there's other programs like the TRIO programs. TRIO, help me, the biggest one, I can't think of the name.
Upward Bound,
right, there you go. Upward Bound. Okay, get a part of those, because they really give you that experience. And then a lot of times, if you do your research and you're really interested in a university as a 10th grader and 11th grader, you can see what kind of summer programs they have. They may have a summer bridge program that will allow not only incoming freshmen, but rising seniors participate. And that'll teach you a little more about the university. You'll get the feel of the campus. So remember, my 9th and 10th graders, I really want you to focus on your seat work, and I want you to find something to get involved in, correct? And like Mr. Magwood emphasized, okay, what you do on social media will follow you for the rest of your life. So you have to be mindful of the posts that you put out and try not to get caught up in what is going on with the world with this, I'm coming correct, none of that. Because universities can look at that. And a lot of times with these institutions, especially at HBCUs, right? In our research with the showcase, we learned that about 76% of the kids want to go to a historically Black college and university, but funding is an issue, right? PWIs have more money to offer African-American students, right, than HBCUs, just because they get that extra funding and our institutions are smaller. So what I need you to know that is competition. So that was one of the things that I learned, you know, coming from Louisville, Kentucky, going all the way to Hampton, Virginia, that, okay, well, it might have been 5 Andreas at Ballard, but it sure was 5,000 of them at Hampton. You know what I mean? So that's a lot of competition when it comes to getting the dollars for the institution that you have a desire to go for. That doesn't mean that you won't get a scholarship. I'm just saying, you're in your 9th and 10th grade year. Do your work, take school seriously, which I already know that you are doing that. So 11th graders, what should you be doing? Well, you should be doing some community service too. It doesn't hurt to start giving back in the 11th grade. I need you to think about that. Reflect, make sure you're homing in on your writing skills, start looking, taking a little more serious the schools that you're interested in, maybe asking your parents or joining college tours in the 11th grade year and even 10th grade year, but go on those top college tours and see what you're interested in, because you got to breathe the campus. You got to know what is good for you, right? My mom took me, honestly, I wanted to go to North Carolina A&T. I really, really did. But she took me to A&T and she took me to Wake Forest. She took me to, across the street from A&T is Bennett College, which is another all-girls college. I've been to TSU because that is in my family through and through. Of course, Kentucky State, because we're right here in Kentucky. But when I saw that home by the sea, baby, I was sold. I had never seen Black folks own yachts before, okay? That looks nothing like Kentucky, nothing what I had ever seen before, and that expectations. That let me know that this is a place where I can go and they're showing me that I can have this too. But there was an expectation that I was going to do my due diligence. And so that's what I had to do. So I was sold, but it's all in breathing the campus and meeting the students and meeting the faculty. That HBCU experience, and both, I'm going to watch my time. We got 10 minutes. Mr. Magwood and I can both share my HBCU experience changed my life, right? It changed my life so much that I came back maybe about 8 to 10 years later after I went off to graduate school. And I went to graduate school at a PWI, Old Dominion University. I'm very proud of that. I love that institution. I love their diversity plan. Old Dominion turned around from like 7,000 to 8,000 students to 21,000 students overnight, baby. And it's a very multicultural. But my experience at Hampton changed my life. And then it changed my life so that I wanted to make sure that everyone in Louisville, Kentucky, and throughout the state and Southern Indiana had the option available of attending an HBCU if that's what they wanted. I'm not saying HBCUs are everybody, and you might need to change up. But I'm also saying HBCUs teach you to be the game and they elevate the game. Because you came from me. My expectation is that you're going to rock and rule the world the right way. So I would like for my 12th graders, you know, and if you haven't decided, if you're still just undecided about what it is that you want to do, you need to have a candid conversation, you know, with self. You know, what institution is best for me? Because right now you're at this time where you're a few months out from the fall and it's summer. So you probably need to sit down and you need to make that decision. And you got to make it what's affordable for you and comfortable for you, right? But go ahead and take that leap of faith because it's going to be okay. Now, I will say, going back to the 11th graders, by the time, if you do what you're supposed to do your 9th and your 10th grade year, by the time you get to your 11th grade, your 12th grade year, by that September, you should already have those institutions down that you want to go to and you want to apply. And don't let any school bully you into making an early decision that you're not wanting to do. Okay, that's a parent perspective. Make sure that you don't have all your eggs in one basket. Okay, make sure you apply at a minimum of 8 schools, especially since you're sitting at Manual High School, is one of the, if not the top school in the state of Kentucky. You should really be attending like applying to at least 10 to 15 colleges. I saw one of my classmates' daughter today. She rolled all these little schools that accepted her, and then at the end of this little song was playing at the end, she chose her HBCU. Now her mama went to Hampton, but she's going to Spearman. And so, like what Mr. Magwood said, that we are very close-knit family. It's just like family. We may talk about each other because, I went to the right HU, not that Howard University. I went to Hampton University. I might say that, but I'm not going to let an outsider come in and say that. And I don't care if she looks like me. She's not going to say that. We're not going to allow you to talk about our institutions because we know what they instilled in us, the value, the love, and the appreciation for culture, for self, and for everybody, and for the world. And to make sure that we're productive citizens in the United States. That's the most important thing, right? We're not in this world alone, and everybody is equal. And I want it to be known too, if your white students, your white friends are interested in HBCUs, they're more than welcome. HBCUs do not discriminate like PWIs no longer discriminate, right? So what you have oftentimes, if you look at a couple of our campuses, i.e. Kentucky State's softball team, baseball team are probably predominantly white. So is a couple other ones across the United States. Why? Because white students are playing probably more softball and they're getting the scholarships at these institutions. Now that doesn't just, so it's kind of the reverse flip, like on the sports or whatever on the academic, but it is the truth. It happens. Like a lot of our African-American males are that have the best talent are pushed to PWIs for those top dollars because they want to play with D1 schools. Well, I'm here to tell you and share with your friends that Tennessee State is a D1 school. Tennessee State just bought on George, the pro athlete that they just hired. I can't think of his last name, but like Deion Sanders is at Jackson State. And they're changing the game. I forgot his last name, the NFL player. Like, I'm not a big football person, but anyways. But Tennessee State, Jackson State, Texas Southern, Hampton, North Carolina Central, they're all D1 schools, right? So a lot of times for athletes, they look at that. But there are options, and we just want you to know that they are viable options and that they are great options. Are there any questions? We have 5 minutes. And while she's getting questions, I'm gonna let you know 2 Chainz, because y'all know who 2 Chainz is, right? Alabama State. I think that what is her name? Megan Thee Stallion is. I think she has like a semester or something left at Texas Southern. I think she's working on that. And then Terrence J. I love him. North Carolina A&T. And then last Alonzo Howard.
And people know, of course, from Howard, Taraji Henson is a Howard alum.
Taraji P. Henson.
Common is a
Common and Michelle K. Florida A&M. Right. A&M. And then you have those that are on the opposite. Who'd you say?
Who is a first African billionaire in the United States of America?
Oh, Virginia State University.
No, billionaire.
Oh, Oprah, Tennessee State. Yes. That's right. And I was getting ready to get to the business world. So yes, the first, she was the first millionaire. Well, no, he actually beat her in assets, but billionaire is Oprah, probably the first Black female millionaire in the US. And then now she's the first African-American billionaire, period. Oprah, Tennessee State University, HBCU. I was thinking about Reginald Lewis, Beatrice, first Black.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
And speaking of billionaires, I don't know if everyone saw class of 2019, gentleman, African-American. He was a graduate from Cornell, first billionaire, Robert Smith, who paid all the student loans off for graduate. Came to about $34.
He sure did.
Legacy.
Sure did.
Mhm.
Well, Microsoft's first president of the board is John W. Thompson, Florida A&M School of Business. Florida A&M has a great school of business to contend with. So if that's your interest, what we're trying to show you is that the alumni of historically Black colleges and universities are doing it. Are there any questions for us?
We did not have any questions at this time.
Okay.
And we are about 2 minutes away from ending. So if you all have any closing comments, I think our students would, whatever you want to leave them with before we end tonight, I think that'd be helpful.
I'll just say thank you for your time. And Mr. Magwood, thank you for talking to our babies in Louisville. You know, I'm a Louisville girl, so I thank you.
Thank you. My pleasure to be here. Thank you so much.
Yeah, we really appreciate your time this evening and coming and joining us on our first virtual CollegeCon event. We survived. I think we made it through 2 sessions. I don't think anything crashed over here. We'll find out in a few minutes, but I think we survived. So I'm so happy that you guys made it. If anyone's watching and has any questions in the future, the link to the question document is in the chat, and we will get answers to all of those questions for you and send them to you personally, as well as make a fax document available on our website. So this presentation, as well as all of the resources and things that we gather here tonight, will be available on the DuPont Manual website. There'll be a special page designated to the CollegeCon event for 2021 with all of the resources for the entire event. So we look forward to seeing you guys with us on Tuesday evening for 2 additional sessions. Please check out your grade level Google Classrooms for the resources page. It's also in the description of all of the YouTube live events. So this evening's event, there's the information page for all of the session descriptions and the links to those sessions. So come back and join us on Tuesday. So thank you guys again for joining us, and y'all have a great evening.
Thank you.